YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about the upcoming Canelo fight. Just wanted to cover the fact that really don't know what everybody's crazy about. You got the little slap and all of that, but let's be honest. Today's video is about just the eye test and boxing and the padding of resumes and boxers fighting people that are not real opponents or threats to them. Pretty often, typically you see them fight one filler in between. So if a fighter's at about 50 fights, there are pretty much about 20 real fights that have been opponents, if that. And you have to think that they closely pick these fights so that those 20 are the best possible 20. And then you also have to remember that there's typically 2 to 3 people that they're avoiding for the rest of their career. If they're pretty good, they're all aiming to be on a pay-per-view program. And typically, if there's only one pay-per-view star in a category, and if you look at Pacquiao and Floyd, their pay-per-view attractions almost simultaneously, side by side, and they avoided each other, or rather, I believe Floyd avoided more because he had the cleanest record and was pursuing the no loss record. He was big on that. But yeah, mostly just the eye test with Canelo. Not really someone that I think is a threat to him. Doesn't really hit hard. I'm speaking about Caleb Plant. I don't think he's going to be an opponent, and I'm seeing a lot of people talking about it. I'm making a video, but I'm not making a video about asking people, hey man, what do you think? Who you think's going to win? What are your predictions? I think that's just hurting the sport. I mean, a lot of people are running with it and making the best of it, but the sport's padded, man. I just did a list of opponents that Canelo fought, and I believe these are Daniel Jacobs, Triple G, Billy Joe Saunders, Miguel Cotto, Lara, Sergey Kovalev, Shane Mosley, Floyd Mayweather, Alfred Angulo, Austin Trout, and I categorized those guys in kind of challenges. I think they were challenges, win or lose. And on the other side, I have fighters that are not challengers, and I put Fielding, Caleb Smith, Amir Khan, Yildirim, Kirkland, Julio Cesar, Liam Smith, Miguel Cotto, Luciano Cuello, Carlos Baldomir, Lovemore, Brian Camachis, I don't know how to pronounce that, Michael Rosales, Josecito Lopez, and that's 14 opponents that he didn't that were, you can say that before the fight started you knew who was going to win, right? That's not a challenger. So here's my deal. If you got 50 wins and you got over 10 people that were not challengers, you're not at 50, you're at like 40. And then you're at like 40, at least 40 fighters that there's no way you won. And if it's, the problem is that they call it a sport. The only way that it's a sport is if the opponent becomes incrementally harder and it's forced upon you. You should have no way possible of picking your opponent. And even when you have some wiggle room in terms of picking your opponent, you still have like different belts like the WBO, WBA, WBC, IBF. If those are 4 belts, and I didn't even Google this to find out how many belts they are. I just stuff that I've been seeing on TV. I just thought about. Out of all of those 4, they has to be naturally there has to be just with an eye test. You have to know this guy beats this guy, and there's gonna be the top dog, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. This guy can pick and choose to fight all of these and fight a champion. One of these two guys can lose, and he can fight another champion. So throughout his career, think about how many champions a fighter can fight. Kind of like Floyd would say, I've fought in the most champions. It's kind of made up, man. There should be only one belt, and then that's the only way you actually kind of get it closer to a sport, because right now it's not close to a sport at all. It's prize fighting. It's kind of a sport to the lower class fighters, because they have to they're kind of challenging each other, and it kind of gets tough like that for the good fighters, because the good fighters get judged a lot, because they're better than a lot of people. And I guess what this really boils down to is the fact that there's not a lot of competition in boxing. There's typically like 4 to 5 guys that are that are kind of a competition, and there's going to be 1 to 2 people that they're going to be able to compete with, and that's why they run through people. And sometimes it's a little bit more. That's why they call stacked divisions, right? And Canelo, right now he hasn't fought, I believe, Charlo and what's his name, Boo Boo. I always remember that name because it's funny. But he hasn't fought Boo Boo. And how long has Boo Boo been in boxing? Quite a long time. So why has he never been an option? Because he's a cash cow. They don't want to kill the cash cow, right? And basically that's it, man. He's not trying to fight the very best, and he's probably not going to fight those guys until he feels that he has an advantage, kind of like Floyd did. His last fight, I get pissed off when I hear him say that he helped fighters and he's helping black fighters. It's like, dude, you could have passed the torch and fought some of the guys in your division. You picked like some guy that wasn't even rated. He could have fought Thurman, Porter. He could have fought Bradley. He could have passed the torch to one of his African American fighters. And you know what that would have done? That would have made them like instant pay-per-view attractions. You know what I mean? He didn't. He's like just selfish. He's like, now I'm gonna fight this guy that I know he has no chance of beating me, and I'm gonna go out with my W. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, that's crazy. But yeah, he didn't care. He doesn't care about that, about helping out other fighters. That's a bunch of BS. But that's another guy that had a bunch of padded resume, man. But here's the funny thing. I actually think he would have won most of them. But you always wondered. The thing is, he always picked people that he was he was always more athletic than them, or just more athletic, really. Because it's kind of hard to find a competition for someone that's really skilled. You have to give him that. He's a very skilled guy. But as a viewer, you want to see competitive fights, right? You don't want to see a 10th grader picking on a sixth grader, and that's what you would see. You would see him usually fighting people that were, like I said, there's multiple belts, and he'd pick the weakest link, and that's what he kept doing. So there's always going to be a champion. So he'd pick one of those guys, the weakest link, the lowest threat, and that's what Canelo's doing. He said Floyd got away with it. He had his fans that already loved him, and he's copying what Floyd did. And I really don't like it. I really don't like it from Canelo, because if you're a fan, you want to see competition. It's not like I'm a Mexican. Let me see this guy just whoop this guy's ass, and he's not even a threat to him. He goes, he kicked his ass. Oh yeah, my Canelo's badass. I think Canelo kind of sucks. I think I've seen him get out. has he gotten better? Yeah, he's gotten a lot better, and he's a pretty badass fighter, just like Floyd is a pretty badass fighter. Just like Pacquiao's a pretty badass fighter. But even Pacquiao, I'm sure if you go through his resume, the guy probably had a few padded fights in there. Who is it? Brandon Rios. That was, you knew he was gonna win. So that's one of my favorite fighters, and I don't think Brandon Rios should go on his win record, because it just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fighters that you just know they're not going to and I should make a video about how many fighters, how many wins do they have, and then start taking away the wins because they weren't threats or dangerous opponents. And that's what I really want to do, and that'd be interesting. Anyways, thanks for liking the video, and please subscribe, and I'll try to make some other videos, and that's it.